Hi everyone, welcome to class. Today we are going to be working on the lateral lines, so the sides of the body. We're not using any myofascial balls today, we are just going to be using yoga blocks. You'll need one for sure, two is even better. If you have a foam block, this should be the right amount of hardness, but if you have a cork block or a wooden block, especially a wooden block, put some fabric over top of it because it'll be too hard. So the first thing that we're going to do here, we'll need one yoga block. We're going to be working the outer lines, the lateral line of the thighs, so getting into the IT band. So the first thing that we're going to do, I'll just show you first actually. We're going to go into two different spots. The first one will be nice and high below your greater trochanter, so below the widest part of your hip. We don't want to be on bone when we do myofascial release. So we'll go up nice and high, then we'll go midway up the thigh, and then right above the knee, but obviously not on the knee, okay? Let's do the right side first. So place the block on the medium height, and you're going to lay yourself over the block, starting off on that high point. So you can stack your legs, and if this becomes too much, because this is quite intense, you can just step your left leg in front to take some of the weight off, okay? So find stillness to start off with. And by the way, if at any point when we do this, if it becomes too much on your shoulders, you can just lower down on your forearm. That will take some of the weight off as well, so you can have a play around and see what works best for you. So now that we've been here for a few moments, do this really gently. Start to roll back and forward. And I apologize if you're a runner or a cyclist. This might feel really intense. But remember, some parts of the body and some parts of the fascia, we don't want to be super compliant. We want it to be more resilient and more tough to hold that elastic energy, right? Like the Achilles tendon. The IT band is another one. We don't want a loosey-goosey IT band because it's what holds the integrity between the hip and the knee, right? Let's switch spots. So place the block about midway down your thigh. Oh, I'm going to need to take this one down a little bit. So what we're doing here is not so much, don't think of it as like loosening the fascia or trying to stretch the fascia or anything. We're just bringing some awareness, so some of that proprioceptive awareness, and also some compression to these tissues to help with movement and hydration. If you find a juicy spot, feel free to stay and just breathe. I know this one can be really intense. But remember, the good thing about myofascial release is we never need to be holding it for too long on any one spot. Let's switch it up, and we're going to go just above the knee. Again, find stillness just to begin with. And then you can roll forward and back. This one, if you're hardcore, you might want to float your legs up off the floor and see how that feels. But if that's too much, don't worry about it. That's just if you're not feeling a whole lot, which I doubt is the case. Good, we don't need to be here long, just a couple more big breaths. Okay, we're done that side. Come on out of that and lay down onto your back. Take a few moments. And just feel. Notice the difference, right side, left side. Bend your knees, roll over onto your side, and we're going to go right into a stretch from here before doing the other side. So this is where two blocks will be useful, but if you don't have two blocks, that's fine. So what you'll do is step your right foot forward so you're in a lunge position, then pick up your back knee. Then you kind of have to hop your left foot over to the right as far as you can, so just on the edge of your mat. And then wiggle your right foot over towards the left. So now you've got this crisscross with your legs. If you're using two blocks, place your hands on the blocks, or if you don't have blocks, your hands will go forward. And then you can roll to the knife edge of your right foot. So like a lunge, but not really. And hopefully you're feeling a nice stretch along the outside of your right leg. Think of pulling your outer right hip crease back and in. Ooh, we'll probably get some hamstrings here as well. That's all good. Find some micro movements if you need to, so you can really get into the outer edge of your right leg. Again, really think of pulling. So what I'm thinking about doing here is pulling my baby toe, my right baby toe back. Stay for just a few more big breaths. Ooh, okay, you can bend your right knee and then come down onto the ground. Take a moment, just sit back on your heels and take a moment. Let everything settle. And let's switch up sides. So grab your block, and we're going to do the left side now, nice and high up on the hip. So remember, you can be on your forearm or your hand, whatever feels best for you. Start off finding stillness before adding a little bit of movement. And if you want to, you can roll forward and back. And I should have said this on the other side, but if this is feeling just way too much, put layers over top of your block so that it becomes much softer. You can, of course, do this with a foam roller. That's a really nice option as well. Sometimes you can get foam rollers that are a little softer. You might find that one side feels totally different from the other side, which is always interesting. Okay, let's switch it up. So the block goes down, so it's midway between the knee and the hip. And again, just start off finding stillness. And then little movements forward and back. Okay, that should be about good. We'll go down to the last point above your knee. Remember, you can lift your legs if you want to. See how that feels, if that's not too much. But again, find stillness and then roll forward and back. All right, I'd say we're done. So come on out of that. Roll down. Oh, I didn't get out of that very gracefully. Roll down onto your back and take a few moments, again, just to feel and notice. Remember that it's after the compression that the fluids go rushing back into the tissues. So see if you can be present for that. Become really sensitive to the sensations. All right, bend your knees, roll over onto your side, press yourself on up, and we'll do that crisscross position again. So have your blocks there. Left leg is forward, right knee back. So start off in a lunge. Then you can pick up your back knee and just hop your right foot over towards the left and wiggle your left foot over towards the right. Then come to the knife edge of your left foot, flex your foot and drag your left baby toe back, and then your left hip, pull it back. And again, something that's really interesting is just to notice the difference between sides. For me, left versus right is like night and day. So we don't want to make ourselves wrong, or you're not doing anything wrong, everything's fine. Our bodies are going to be asymmetrical, but it's interesting, it's curious. I've noticed this about my body years ago, that the left side is so different from the right, and I have no answer for that, It's just something that I always kind of pay attention to. Like, what am I doing in my life, in my day-to-day, that's causing this? Why does it feel so different? Not too much longer. Just take a few more big breaths. Okay, soften your left knee, hop your right foot back to center, lower your right knee down, and then sit yourself on back. And just take a moment. All right, you'll need one block for this next one. So we're moving up the body now, and we're going to work into the thinner layers of muscle there and get into our serratus and our intercostal muscles as well. So let's start off on the right side. The block will be on its medium height. Do whatever you want with your legs. It doesn't really matter. You're just going to lay down so that your ribs are laying on the block in line with, we'll say, your breast or your nipple is fine. And then lower your right elbow down and rest your head down. It's always funny saying nipple. Sometimes people, like, it's like, well, just a body part. But then you also see people like, did you just say nipple? I did. Okay, so let your ribs just rest on the block. And then let's find a little bit of movement. So rock forward just a tiny bit and back. And this might feel like a lot. And if so, totally fine. Just put some more layers over top of your block. So, I love to think about like the symbolism of, well, everything in life. And so when I think about the superficial front line, if I think about the front of the body, that's our movement forward. That's us stepping forward and growing and our future. And the back of the body is what's behind us. It's the past. It's what's already been. Well, the lateral line is what holds those two together, right? It's the connection between the front and the back. So the way I think of the lateral lines is it's what is negotiating and sort of holding the space for the future and the past. The wisdom of the past and the potential for the future gets held by the lateral lines, by the side body. That's about good for this spot. So now place the block, go into like the pit of your armpit, maybe a little bit lower than that. Again, the thing with the myofascial release, it doesn't need to be exact, right? So just find a spot that you can work with. I'm going to go right into the pit of my armpit. There's usually some juicy stuff there. So we want, if we think about it in that way, in that more symbolic way, we want the lateral lines to be aware and be awake and alive. They're not just getting pulled forward into the front line, and it's not just getting pulled back into the back line. It's got its own strength and its own integrity to negotiate that pull forward and the pull back, So if we think about this in our minds, it's like, are we always being pulled into the future or pulled back into the past? Or are we allowed to stay in the present? Again, take the excitement and the potential for the future, marry it with the wisdom of the past, and be really, really present. That's what I think of with the lateral lines. A couple more breaths here. You can go a little bit further back if you like to get onto the lats. And then if you come forward, you might get onto the pecs, but just watch your breast tissue. Okay, that should be about good. Now press yourself on up. We'll come right into our stretch from here. We'll do the same side. So what you'll do is you'll place your your hand down onto the floor and have your wrist just a little bit further forward of your shoulder. And then you're just going to let yourself slouch. Do whatever you want with your legs, but you want to think of your right rib cage hammocking down towards the floor. What I like to do with my legs here is have the legs straight and then step the left foot on top, in front, sorry, and then just rest my forearm there. I don't know, it looks kind of cool. So think of your right ribs like a hammock, and think of your hammock swaying in like a soft breeze in the Caribbean or something, tied between two palm trees. And your two palm trees would be the right hip and your right arm. So those are the two stabilizing posts, and then everything else can just sink towards the floor. And your breath would be like that soft breeze on a sunny, hot day. And your only job is to let yourself get heavy. Okay, we're going to do one last thing here just to open up the left-hand side. So if you're not in the position that I'm in, if you could find yourself in that position, please. And then just scoot your right hand back a little bit so it's more in line with your shoulder, but doesn't need to be exact. Then push down into the knife edge of your right foot, lift your hips up, and sweep your left arm up and overhead. We'll just hold this for about 2 minutes. I'm joking. You can lower down. Did I get you? Okay. Now we're going to do the left side. So actually, you know what? Sorry, come to a seated position for just a moment. And just notice, how does the right side feel versus the left side? Does one side feel taller? Maybe one side feels heavier or whatever. Just notice. We'll do one last thing here while we're in a seated position. I'm not mirroring you, okay? So left fingertips go wide, sweep your right arm up and over. That's it, and slowly come back through to center. Isn't it amazing? I don't know about you, but I can really feel a difference between sides. And you know, we didn't actually do that much work. It didn't take a lot of time to get there. So let's do the left side and even it out. We're going to start off, our first position is in line with your nipple. You can come on down. And do whatever you want with your legs. Just let yourself get really heavy over the block. When we learn about the anatomy of the body, we can look at it in a really linear, like one-dimensional way and get pretty far. But when you start to marry knowledge with a whole other dimension, the world of the unseen, of the symbols and the metaphors that mean something to you, there's a whole, it's like it becomes 3D. It becomes more dynamic. You enter this whole other world of understanding your body. Start to roll forward and back a little bit. So of course I'll share my thoughts with you, but what's more important is for you to think about, well, okay, so what does the side body, what do the lateral lines mean to you? What do they symbolize? What do you think of? How does it feel when you do these sort of openings? And you can think about that with your yoga poses. Do your yoga poses hold a specific, unique quality or essence or archetype that is so much more than warrior two, place your foot here, place your knee here? Like you can get far just thinking like that, but there's a whole other world to tap into. That should be about good. Take the block up. And the same goes for, if you're doing weightlifting or something. For me, yeah, the alignment of a deadlift is incredibly important and will get you very far. But there's also energy behind a deadlift that's very different from a squat. And so it's like, okay, well, what does a deadlift symbolize? What does it mean? What does it feel like? And it's just really interesting. The world sort of opens up when you can see things on a whole new dimension. You can start to roll back so you get onto your lats a little bit. Nice juicy spot at the back of your armpit there. And then come forward. You might get a bit onto the pecs. Do that a couple times. Roll back. Ooh. Forward. Okay, come back to center. That should be about good. You can place your block off to the side and place your left hand down onto the floor. Let your left rib cage sag. Do whatever you want with your legs. I'm going to do this variation and step my foot in front. Remember your job here. You can think about the hammock again, if that's helpful. And just let everything drop. Imagine that your torso was like a bag or something. If you're carrying like a bag of groceries and there's something really heavy in it, it's like it just yields to the heaviness. It's still contained, right? You don't want the bag to break, but it changes shape. There's like a drop in the bag from something heavy. It's the same thing. It's still encased, it's still enclosed, but let the heaviness and that dropping have an influence on that, on the container, your fascia. Take a few more big breaths here, stretching really long from your left hip to your left armpit. Okay, straighten out your left leg if it's not already. Scoot your left hand back a little bit. Push down, lift up, and sweep your right arm up and overhead. Breathe deeply into your right ribs. Lower down. Come to your bum, have a seat. And then place your right fingertips nice and wide. Sweep your left arm up and overhead. Take a couple big breaths into your left lung. Slowly come on up and take a moment. Close down your eyes. Just notice. Okay, we're going to get into the sides of the neck now. So clasp your hands behind you and then just kind of over to the right side. I'm not mirroring you, okay? So over onto your right hip, and then lower your right ear to your right shoulder. So stretching out the left-hand side. And then you can find little micro adjustments so that you're really getting into the side of the neck there. Keep your head where it is. Release your hands. Bring your right hand to like your left ear, the side of your head there, and then reach your left arm away from you out towards the side with your thumb pointing up. And you can play with where your left arm is in space. Try taking it down, see how that feels. Nice. Okay, right hand comes to your right temple, and then let your head get heavy in your hand. Push your head all the way back up. I always feel like that's like a really bad dance move or something. But anyways, interlace your hands at your low back and hook. I know you know what I mean when I do that. Hook. And then lower your left ear towards your left shoulder. Imagine there is like a sandbag placed on the top of your right shoulder. Your right shoulder descends down, and then so much space gets created between the top of your right shoulder to your right ear. Keep your head exactly as is. Release your hand. Left hand comes to your head. Right arm reaches away from you, thumb points up. And then find the spot of placement with your arm until you find a nice stretch along the right hand side of your neck. That should be real good. Take your left hand to your left temple. Use your hand to press your head back up to center. Then just take a moment at center. You can close down your eyes and tune into your whole body. Become more aware of the sides of your body. Visualize them holding the front body and the back body with integrity, stability, and ease. We're all done. Hope you're feeling wonderful, and I will